We're back for another DraftKings Showdown, possibly our last one for the NBA Finals if the Knicks don't show up today. We're going to do what we always do on this channel. We're going to compare my projections to some of the industry leaders out there, in particular, our friends at Stochastic. We're going to look at their projection data, their ownership data, see where I differ, see what looks better, what looks worse. I don't know. We'll also hop over to Beta 2, the best market-based bets are right now. We'll hop back to Stochastic, run a DFS sim. By the end of this video, you know all the industry's must-plays, along with my splash plays for today's slate. Again, Knicks, Pacers, one more time at the very least. Let's get into it here. And there's not going to be a game tomorrow because the Thunder wiped out Minnesota yesterday. An embarrassing effort by Minnesota, I would say. I had some teams, again, top three, literally going into the fourth quarter. And Anthony Edwards, the one player needed to do anything. And nope. Fucking awful. They went down kind of similar to how we talked about yesterday. If Anthony Edwards couldn't hit shots, he was going to still get shots up. It would go poorly. The bad part was that the blowout build really made every Thunder guy get there. So my talk yesterday about you play Holmgren if you don't play Jalen Williams, well, they both made the lineup anyway. So that's how that goes. And Holmgren, in fact, made it as captain. So bad showing for my gross out face thumbnail yesterday with Chet Holmgren. Let's talk about this game we got in front of us. We got Tyrese Halliburton, highest price guy in the slate, 11.4 salary. He went bananas last game. I mean, really no way to say it. Besides that, had almost a triple-double at halftime, had a triple-double shortly after halftime. Just really a great effort by him. You know, that said, the usage rates still are where they are basically the entire playoffs. He's at about a 22.9% usage rate, so just shy of 23. That would still put him behind Pascal Siakam's usage, still behind TJ McConnell's usage, still behind Benedict Matherin's usage for as much as that matters, with him basically being not so much in the rotation at this stage of things. For these guys, really on Indiana, I would say that for Halliburton, he's certainly the one you want the most. 46% flex ownership for me, 45%. Actually, 45% is what I have. The field right now is projected to have 46. In terms of captain ownership for Halliburton here, I got him at 11%, Fields at 17. Do you think we run into the same thing we run into in pretty much every playoff slate where whoever went off the last game, people are going to probably over-own that guy a little bit? Halliburton, I have no issue with going him a good amount, but I don't think he's like an SGA here. I had a ton of SGA captain yesterday, not a surprise. Really think that's a spot where SGA was kind of on a higher plane of projection than a lot of the other guys. For Halliburton, he's only 2 fantasy points higher than Brunson. Same thing for Towns for me. A bit of a gap to Siakam. So once again, we have a big three here. It's Halliburton, Brunson, and Towns, at least based on my projections. And I would say pretty similar for Stochastic, though I think they might not have Towns quite as much in that big three grouping. But for Halliburton, Brunson, Towns, I think their guys are going to be in a ton of my lineups today. No critique with it, really. Whoever you want to play at cap, you can follow your heart. I would say, really, I'm prepared for either outcome today. The Knicks are technically the favorite in the spot, with them being a 4-point favorite at home. The series moving back to MSG. But frankly, the Knicks have blown that MSG crowd advantage already in the series, so I don't really know how much that matters at this point. For Halliburton, though, he'll be involved no matter what. Certainly, if he were to fail, you could try to expect more Siakam at captain in particular, getting more usage his way. But I do think for Halliburton, to me, just being with the field on him seems like the right move no matter what. Because he's been great this series. He's probably been, I mean, would we say he's been the best player in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference? I think that's not a crazy take to have. Hard to make a case to fade him, besides the fact that I am 2.7 fantasy points lower than Stochastic's projection. They have at 49. I'm at 46.3. Pretty big gap between where we have those two projections right now. Jalen Brunson at number 2, 11K salary flat for him, getting him at 45.5%. Is he expected ownership by Stochastic? I've got him at 35.3. A captain for Brunson, I have him at, wow, only 5% of my lineups have Brunson at captain in the top 150 I ran before the show. 20% expected ownership for him. So Brunson, your chalk captain expected today. Also be one of the chalkiest flex players. Not a surprise there. I'm happy to be, with-ish the field and the flex. A captain, that feels like a pretty big anti-stand for me. I assume Stochastic's going to be much higher on him. We'll see in a moment. But I say for Brunson, I mean, the usage is still there for him. Really nothing has been an issue besides the foul trouble he's had in the series. But he's put up 34% usage overall in the playoffs, 1.2 fantasy points a minute. Best performer on the Knicks by a pretty decent margin in both those categories. I get it for Brunson. I think he's had kind of an up and down series, but he does foul hawk. He does certainly take enough usage away that you expect that to be there. The foul trouble in the series, always going to be a risk for some guys, but he'll get back on the court as long as he can, as long as he doesn't have 5 fouls, basically. So for Brunson here, I think he's still a good play. I would favor Halliburton a little bit more. But I think it comes down to the fact that, again, I'm going to have more Towns, which I can live with. Towns had his minutes shortened last game because of foul trouble. And Towns has been really, I think, the most important player for the Knicks in the series. Obviously, the 20-point game in the fourth quarter, that was a big part of it. But overall, like, if he plays well, it seems like they have a better shot at winning. If Brunson plays okay, like, there's either in games or sometimes they're still not really in them as much as they should be. I think for Brunson and Towns, I'm okay keeping things as they are. For you guys out there, though, I'm low on Brunson in a major way. So if you want to try to fade me here, playing more Brunson, playing him especially at captain, seems like the move right now. Karl-Anthony Towns at a 10-4 salary looks good to me here. The fact he's a little bit cheaper than these guys, but the projection is still within about 2 fantasy points is really a nice sign, I think, for where I like Towns to be. Getting him in 50% of my top 150 lineups right now in the flex. Fields at 40. At captain, I'm getting Towns at 29%. Fields at 17. So for me, it's another Towns day here. I like the way Towns has come together in the series for the most part. You can see last game as well. Let's pull up the popcorn machine here, and not that one. I'm going to open a different tab. Here we go. Towns last game, 2 fouls early on, left with about 4.5 minutes in the game to start. Picked up the third foul, I think, to close out this one. No, he didn't pick up the third foul. Never mind. But had a good stint after that. You know, you could assume he probably would have played 10 minutes in the first quarter, then maybe another 10 in the second quarter. So he'd be on pace for about 40 here. Second half, he barely left the court. You basically had this one little stint with Mitchell Robinson coming in, but it was all Towns after that. If the Pacers are in the lead, definitely going to be Towns out there more as much as possible because he's the only big man that can get shots up. Only really, I mean, he is, in my opinion, their best scorer on the team, even though Brunson's had higher usage in the playoffs, because he does something unique for his position where Brunson's kind of one of those high usage guards that we have in pretty much every series we've had. I mean, definitely in the finals, in the conference finals, but really throughout the playoffs, that's what every team has. You have your lead guard, gets a lot of shots up. Not a lot of teams have the big man is putting up a ton of shots as well. So for Towns here, I think he'll be out there a ton. Played 37 minutes last game with that foul trouble. The foul trouble is still certainly a risk, though. He is a little bit foul prone, more than you'd want to see for a guy that don't have this much ownership for, but he's basically in about 80% of my lineups. I've been a Towns guy in the regular season. If this is the last game the Knicks play this year, I'll be a Towns guy until they die. So that's how it looks for Towns for me today. I'll play a lot of them, but I certainly can get trying to play some other guys like Brunson in particular, who I am low on because of how much Towns I have. Pascal Siakam, 35% for the field, 29% for me. At captain, 8% for the field, 4% for me. So a bit of a Siakam fade. I think Siakam is a player you want to go to the most if you're not playing Halliburton at all. If you're not playing Halliburton captain, Siakam can get there a little bit more perhaps. But still, Halliburton making the lineup maybe makes it Siakam hard for Siakam to get the usage he needs to make the winning lineup. But he's playing good minutes. He's out there. My lowest value guy, though, out of the top 6 guys here. So I could see why I'm getting less in the field of him. 9K salary is a little bit tough. Wish you were kind of priced more closely to that tier of the Knicks big 3, or not big 3, the Knicks secondary group of 3. And frankly, the fact he's 1K higher than Miles Turner, get that logic as well, because tournaments have been jerked around a little bit. But Siakam's not been great this series. He's been averaging in the playoffs 1.05 fantasy points a minute. That's fine. But less than Towns, less than Brunson, less than Halliburton. So he's kind of in a tier of his own where it's like you have, I would say kind of similar to the OKC Minnesota series where you had your SGA, your Anthony Edwards. Then you basically have a tier with Jalen Williams and that's it, even though Chet Holmgren, obviously, those guys kind of eat from the same plate. For Pascal Siakam, he's kind of like Jalen Williams where he's definitely not, in my opinion, the same tier as Halliburton, Brunson, and Towns. But he is a player where if he has a ceiling game, if he does get there, he can make it as captain. He can also make it in the flex, even if he has an okay game. I think Siakam's got utility here, but going above the field's not going to be in the cards for me, I think, no matter what I do today. OG Anunoby. So talked about him last game after the weird press conference thing. Thought he might get some more usage. Did end up having the second highest usage on the team last game. He had actually third highest, right? Yeah, third highest. He had 24% usage. Cat was at 24.5. Brunson was at 30.5, basically. So for OG Anunoby, played the most reliable minutes as well for the Knicks last game out of those secondary Knicks pieces. You can see Mikal Bridges played 35 here. You can see OG Anunoby played just basically shy of 40. Josh Hart got to 36 playing off the bench. He plays a ton of minutes as well. These guys do move around a little bit where you could see Anunoby come out if they want to play McBride and they feel like Anunoby's not doing a good job. But I think Anunoby, to me, given the fact he's a starter, Josh Hart's not, given the fact he's a better producer than Mikal Bridges, absorbs more usage overall, even though both guys did crest over 20% usage last game with Bridges and Anunoby. I like Anunoby more today than Hart and Bridges, getting him at 42%, Fields at 30. I'm okay with that stand. Got a decent projection on Anunoby as well with 32.5, which is 2 fantasy points basically higher than Josh Hart, 3 fantasy points higher than Mikal Bridges. So Anunoby is my preferred guy out of the Knicks group of 3. But like we always talk about here, these guys are functionally competing for the same amount of possessions. You have your group of possessions that are going to go to Brunson, going to go to Towns. Everything else, they're going to up to grabs basically for these 3 guys. And then, elimination game as well, you're probably going to see all the guys get pretty close to their minute ceiling, whether Hart's playing off the bench or starts today, if they try to change things up with Mitchell Robinson. So for Anunoby, Hart, and Bridges, same thing it's been all series, pretty much all playoffs. These guys are really the same play. But right now, projection-wise, I would favor Anunoby, Josh Hart, number 2, Mikal Bridges, number 3. And it's been Hart number 1 for me a lot of the series, but I'm above the field on Anunoby and Hart, lower on Bridges. Captain-wise for Anunoby, I assume I must have some. Anunoby, I got 7% at captain, 5% for the field. Josh Hart, I got 9% at captain, 6% for the field. So I think the price difference there is making Hart come up for me more at captain. Mikal Bridges, only 2% at captain, 4.5% for the field. So you want to fade me today most directly, play Mikal Bridges. You want to play a balanced set of lineups, whether it's 20 max or especially a 150 max. Try to get even amounts of Anunoby, Hart, and Bridges, I think, with a slight lean for me. Anunoby, Hart, Bridges would be the order there. But that group is going to be functionally kind of the same plays. Miles Turner. So Miles Turner last game, his minutes were mostly secure for the most part. Did play 33 minutes, didn't close the game as they went to a smaller group here and the game was out of hand. For Miles Turner, playing big minutes for the most part. Tony Bradley definitely can't do the things that Miles Turner does. So that makes it a little bit better. That said, one thing that stands out, Tony Bradley had a +10 in only 10 minutes. Miles Turner was a flat 0. Obviously, Miles Turner played 3x the minutes, so him being a 0 and plus minus doesn't matter that much. The fact Bradley is pretty efficient, if they want to have the lineups be a little more defensively minded, I could see going to Bradley a little bit more. Bradley, not the same producer as he was in the regular season, where he's only averaging about 0.55 fantasy points a minute so far in the playoffs. He's not kind of a rebound usage machine like he is. He's just out there for rim protection. He did a really good job with rim protection in the last game. So Turner, I think, at risk here, but kind of like we talked about with Hartenstein yesterday, and Hartenstein did pay off. Turner gets the first crack at the usage. So Turner at 8K, 29% for the field, only 13% for me. At captain, Turner, 5%. I'm only getting 1. It doesn't feel great to me to be this low on Turner because he's a starter. It's really the main thing here. Starter has the first shot at having a good game no matter what. Obviously, in the playoffs, it's more important because the rotations, teams will jerk it around. Teams will move it around a little bit more. I'll stick with jerking around. Teams will jerk the rotations around a little bit more. They might jerk it around as well. But for Miles Turner here, I think that for him, if he plays hot here, he'll be less owned. If he hits a captain, he'll be really under-owned. I don't think that's the most likely outcome. But Turner, I think, makes sense here more than my projections give him credit for. Andrew Nembhard, 51% of my top 150 has him. Aaron Nesmith, 52% of my top 150 have him. These guys are too cheap for guys that are really in the rotation as much as anybody else out there, frankly, as much as Miles Turner is. You can see last game, despite the ankle injury, Nesmith got to 32 minutes, so he was basically full go. Nembhard got to 29 because did play a little bit more Ben Shepherd here, though. Shepherd played alongside Nembhard for some of those minutes, so I'm not sure what really led to Nembhard getting less minutes. They played Nesmith over him a little bit and McConnell. It might be the McConnell minutes. They went a little more shot creation heavy. So Nembhard's minutes actually maybe a little bit less secure than Nesmith's, but both guys still in the mix enough, playing about 30 minutes no matter what. The 36-minute projection for Nembhard might be a little aggressive, so I wonder if Stochastic will knock that down a little bit. Because I think if you get Nembhard at about 32, 33 minutes, you're not going to get him in half the lineups like I did here. But Nesmith being cheaper, I would personally favor Nesmith here. But both guys coming up, I get why, because they are priced pretty appropriately, and both guys are going to be playing, at least 30 minutes. Maybe in Nesmith's case, 35 if he gets there. Shout out my fellow Chris here. Thanks for the show, Spags. So this is it for my Knicks and Showdown for a while. It's been a fun ride. Well, I mean, Showdown, I'll still be doing shows here for the finals, so no matter what. But I imagine if the finals, when is NBA Finals Game 1? If this series were to end today, Finals Game 1 is June 5th. So I guess they would have to wait for that no matter what, right? They wouldn't move that game up. See, it's possible we wouldn't have Showdown for about a week, but we'll see how it goes. I think, though, I really hope the Knicks could stave off elimination here, but no matter what, I'm not going to do a video over the weekend, so this might be our last showdown video to the finals anyway. Unless the series really extends, which would be nice. Be nice to get a game 7, but I don't think that feels like the most likely outcome. Mitchell Robinson, our last guy here in terms of the top projected guys. He's been starting. He's also really not closing games. I got to move back to here. So Mitchell Robinson, you probably just saw in the popcorn machine, not playing the fourth quarter. Basically, when they get to the fourth quarter, the foul stuff with Mitchell Robinson, they're not keeping him out there for that. That reason's a big part of it. Number 2 is that Karl-Anthony Towns basically has to get his shots up. The Knicks have been trailing in pretty much every fourth quarter, so that's been a big part of it as well. Mitchell Robinson not closing it out. For Towns and Robinson, not really any push-pull dynamic anymore. There are minutes where Mitchell Robinson will be out there because Towns isn't. Last game, we saw Precious Achiuwa play a few minutes in the first half, but really, I think ideally they would like to have one of Robinson or Towns in the court at any given time. So that's really the big thing here. Towns just had foul trouble, so they couldn't bring him back in. Achiuwa's minutes should go away today unless there's foul trouble again. That said, for Mitchell Robinson, he's getting enough minutes here. I'm okay with him in the flex. Captain, I don't think there's any real chance he gets there. The biggest chance for him would be if Halliburton, Brunson, and Towns all need to be in a lineup. Maybe Mitchell Robinson's your cheapest piece that puts up 25 actual points. Then at captain, you get there because you're getting then almost 40 captain points. I could see that being one way he hits a captain. I got him 3% of captain fields at 2.5, so that's not really a big stand there. Mitchell Robinson, I think a very functional flex piece at 5,400. He and Neesmith may be a little bit undervalued compared to Nembhard, I think, because of the fact that Nembhard's minutes got jerked around meaningfully last game. But again, it's a game where they were in the lead. Maybe if they're actually, no, that doesn't really make sense. Yeah, really, I'm confused by the Nembhard minutes being jerked around, to be honest. That kind of surprises me because I didn't even realize it in game while watching that game. But I think in some respects, Neesmith and Robinson might be safer plays relative to projection. Definitely I'm giving credit for Nembhard, who's played really well throughout the playoffs and probably a little bit inflated as a result. We're going to sort by value here, and we'll try to keep making decent time, I guess. I don't actually know. We're not making decent time. But it doesn't matter. We're covering stuff in detail. You guys know I give you guys every day, so show some love if you can. Subscribe, hit the like button, do all those things. Of course, going earlier than the 1 p.m. listed start time because I just had to get this out of the way. I got a lot of best ball content to do this afternoon, so show some love if you can. Subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment down below because one of very few people, definitely one of very few individuals doing this right now. I know Stochastic with Josh does a great job every morning. But I'm really one of very few people covering the showdowns this length, and I do try to talk in depth about the game theory stuff, how to leverage guys against each other. So hopefully, I know from some of you guys have added value, but if you're new to the channel around here and you want to see these videos on the home stretch for the finals and similar content coming up once the NBA season ends, I'm going to do MLB videos. That is still a promise. I wouldn't say a guarantee. Well, let's not say promise or guarantee. It's a very high likelihood that'll happen on the channel too. So if you enjoy this process here, stay tuned. There'll be more coming like it for, of course, NBA regular season when we hit that again, and hopefully for MLB this summer. Tony Bradley, top value guy here, 35% of the field will play him. I'm only getting him at 19% though. A captain, got none of him, so he's not in play there. Bradley played 10 minutes, did not put up 10 fantasy points, also bricked the free throw. That would have been possibly important for me, but the game got weird anyway, so I don't know if it mattered. For Tony Bradley, though, he's cheap. He is definitely a positive plus-minus guy with how he played last game. In fact, he was, I think, the highest plus-minus guy besides, actually, no. Third highest. His plus 10 was just behind Halliburton. So the guy put up a triple-double, only plus 16. Neesmith the plus 20, though. That's pretty nuts. But Tony Bradley plus 10 is not bad. Better than certainly Thomas Bryant was doing in the series. So for Tony Bradley, I think there's utility to go there. The issue is he really killed a third of the field last time out, or didn't help out a third of the field last time out. He's really your only 1K play you trust. But last time out, we did see Landry Shamet and Delon Wright score ahead of him. Maybe that flips back today, but the chalk is here again with Tony Bradley, 35% owned, 19% for me. He's an 11x value in a showdown. That's a crazy number relative to showdown standards where you're usually getting 4x guys around that range in terms of value metrics. Miles McBride. McBride played 15 minutes last game. Was out there doing the full court press stuff, but they didn't really go to it as much as the ESPN articles speculating they might. So that was something where I think for McBride, he's okay. Barely in the hunt at all. Put up 3 real life points, 1 peripheral, minus turnovers. For Miles McBride, he's not a player that I've loved this series. I keep getting him in every slate, though, at 2,800. He will be less owned than Tony Bradley, so I could live with that overall to get 45% in the flex of Miles McBride. At captain, I also got 1% Miles McBride or 1.3%. Fields at 0.9%. So technically I am in favor of him as captain. Not a crazy McBride fan here, but I do think he has utility in the spot because of the fact that if they want to go smaller at guard for the defense, they feel like one of Bridges, Anunoby, Hart is not doing a good enough job picking up full court. They could bring McBride in, who's great, kind of pressing a lead ball handler. But when you are pressing a lead ball handler full court, you're not going to get much usage on the other side because of how much of a tax it is on the defensive side. So for McBride, I really don't think the minutes projection is great at 19. Feels like should be more like a 13 to 15 minute projection. It's coming up a lot. So data is what it is. Neesmith, Nembhard, we talked about those guys enough. Towns talked about him. He's still a top value. And again, my top value of all the pay up options. Mitchell Robinson, we talked about. Halliburton, we talked about. Obi Toppin, he's in the hunt the same way he's been all series. In particular, he'll get more minutes if you do see Siakam get foul trouble. As it is, he got 18 last game, and Siakam, I don't think was in any foul trouble at all at any point. Obi Toppin, still a faint chance as well that they could not play Tony Bradley and go Toppin as they did in the fourth quarter here. We had Miles Turner for the most part, but Toppin closing it out when Pacers were safely ahead. But still, Toppin is a risk to take minutes at the 5 if they decide Tony Bradley is not worth it or Bradley fucks up bad in some way. They can go Toppin and Turner and have him as the backup. So I think for Toppin, there's more utility here than the 16% ownership I have at 4K. But it feels like with him being higher owned or high projected owned than Miles McBride, I get why I'm getting so much McBride in the sim. But really, to me, Bradley, McBride, Toppin, those are your 3 obvious value plays. Delon Wright, Landry Shamet, more you hope and pray that those guys can get there in 8 to 10 minutes. Don't think it happens again, but it can happen again. And Brunson, Anunoby, Hart, close out the value sorting here, so nothing too crazy. Let's look at the game-by-game view real fast. We got 109.3 implied points for Indiana, 113.3 for New York. Of course, you get this particular view of all my data here. If you want for yourself, join the Discord down below. Of course, $5 to join. If you just want to be in the Discord, get access there and support the show. If you want all my data, it still is going on to their home stretch here. It'll be the same thing for MLB as well. I'll be creating a sheet like this for MLB. You'll get the same version of my MLB data that I look at every day for when I'm doing stochastic streams or gambling on slates. So join down below, support the show if you can for $5. And if you want to use my projections as they update throughout the day too, the numbers do move when the Vegas total moves and stochastic adjust minutes and things like that. Make sure to join down below the Squirt Squad tier, the VIP tier if you want access to my data. All right, so Indiana, Tony Bradley we talked about. Ben Shepherd in here a little bit at 2,400. I didn't really get him though. Only 1% exposure for the flex. Mathurin, he is a low opportunity guy overall because of the minutes, but a lot of usage for him. And in a game where we know we'll get some more Bradley, some more McBride, maybe Mathurin at 9% ownership is the kind of guy that could spike usage fast. The issue with him is kind of like Aaron Wiggins, though. Wiggins basically not a fit for when OKC is trying to play a defensive-minded lineup. For Mathurin, he has the body to be a great defender. He just doesn't dedicate himself to it. So they're putting him safely behind Shepherd, safely behind Nembhard, obviously, in the rotation overall. That's not great for Mathurin, but he'll get shots up when he can. He's still got a 24% usage rate on the team, which again is technically higher than Siakam, higher than Halliburton. He's just not actually playing a lot of minutes. But he's still averaging 0.9 fantasy points per minute, and he's actually shooting the lights out in the playoffs, 64% true shooting. So Mathurin's fucked, man. Mathurin's fucked being on the scene because, like, they really don't need him on a game-to-game basis, and clearly they don't trust him to play him in the playoffs. But he's like a legit player. He's as legit as Aaron Wiggins is at the very least in terms of how I view him. Shepherd, not that guy. Shepherd, pure defense, offers nothing else besides that. He's averaging 0.48 fantasy points a minute in the playoffs. He's been awful. But again, he's really low owned. So at 2,400, he's another way to try to move away from the really cheap chalk if you want to. But it's really obvious, again, with Bradley, if he's going to be 33% owned, even higher potentially, you have to look at the 1K guys more so. You're the direct pivots to, well, now actually, no, they priced up Shem and Wright. So you really have no direct pivots with campaigns out of the rotation. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So, because frankly, I got to be honest, I was not deeply looking into Delon Wright and Landry Shamet before the show in terms of their DFS numbers, because I don't want to play him no matter what. Yeah, Bradley doesn't really have a pivot. So that's interesting. So the pivot point for Bradley would be to not play a 1K player. The last game, Shamet and Delon Wright were both 1K. You don't have anybody in the Knicks. I guess you could take the shot they play campaign. Maybe if they're like deeply behind or Brunson gets in serious foul trouble and they're deeply behind, you get campaign out there. But there's not that live 1K pivot for Tony Bradley. So really the thing to do then would be pay up for Shepherd, pay up for Mathurin, pay up for Toppin and hope that Bradley just, I think the Toppin part's the most interesting because that means that Bradley maybe didn't get on the court as much. So that's how I would try to handle that if that helps people out there. On New York side, again, Shamet and Delon Wright, both 3 to 6% owned, but they are now priced up because they're both in the hunt to win a tournament last game. Neither guy I like very much. That's that. Everybody else in the Knicks we've talked about. Again, big Stanford Towns on me here, which is not a surprise if you've watched the show at all over the last, God, I've been doing this for now 7 months, 6 months. No, more than, 7 months. If you've watched it all for the last 7 months, it won't be a surprise. Big Karl Anthony Towns day here again. But that's the game by game view, guys. We're going to go to unabated next. Let's see what they have. And we got, let's see, market-based projections. All right, we're logged in. Hopefully it won't log me out. Of course, unabated, great betting data here. And the biggest cosign I can give them is that there are people that spend tens of thousands of dollars on a given night betting their data. In particular, the conditional projections they create every day with Justin Fan, formerly of Underdog, formerly of Fantasy Labs, formerly of Basketball Monster. Guy's been a bunch of different spots, creating value at all the spots. In particular, for players like you guys out there. Now he's creating custom projections for unabated. They've been a great partner throughout the regular season. Now we're just doing an affiliate deal, but check them out, 20% off, link down below. And really, it is a great site to get your bets in on because the conditional data, you're going to have really a premium look at things in a way you're not going to get with market-based data. This process we're going to have right now with unabated, very similar to your odds shopper, your odds jams, where you're using market-based projections to kind of land there. I like unabateds, but those are all kind of the same shit. So just something to keep in mind. My old app probably also kind of the same shit. And we got no bets here for points. So yesterday we had a few Knicks lines that were pretty plus EV because the market hadn't caught up all the way. Now the markets have caught up. So would not recommend a single bet here. If you're desperate for one, under 20.5 points for Pascal Siakam on DraftKings at minus 110 odds is probably your best choice. Rebounds, we have anything. Let's see. Not expecting a whole lot here, because it's been the case throughout. When you have games sitting for 2 days, the market catches up on pricing. So again, not surprised. I think the conditional projections will have more, but the market-based projections probably not going to be the most fertile. Josh Hart, the barest, faintest EV on Prize Picks, under 9.5 rebounds for him. He's still playing good minutes, though less minutes than he's played before. So maybe a slight mispricing, given the fact it was 8.5 in some other books. Yeah, I don't know. That's Josh Hart, but nothing really you want to give full advocacy for here. Jalen Brunson under 7 assists, technically plus EV, but not enough as a bet. You generally want to see 2% or higher sim EV. If you're putting in a bunch of bets like at a high volume, you do 1% or higher because at a certain point, that sample size, that ROI will kind of matriculate because of how many bets you're getting in. For one bet, 0.8, if you're just hard up to get something in a Prize Picks kind of situation, a pick 'em, I would say Brunson under 7 assists, okay, but not a play to go running for. And PRAs, I assume we're going to be priced out here as well. All right, not bad. Siakam under 30.5 at least has some EV on it. Under 30.5 PRAs for Siakam, 1.4% EV at minus 125 odds on DraftKings. So a little bit of a fade by the market-based projections on Siakam. And that's it. Nothing else even close. So again, not the most fertile here. I'm not surprised only one game, but we got to do the process, right? So there's your best bets today, technically. Your industry must plays. Nobody's a must play. All right, last step in the journey here, DFS sim. Pulling up the showdown lineups. Of course, you saw what my data overlaid into sim gives me in terms of lineups. Now you can see what stochastic data will give you in lineups. And of course, you can build lineups yourself on stochastic. 15% off, link down below. All the data, all the sim stuff that they have for you is 15% off below. And really the big thing they have, which I think is a big perk for me as an affiliate, one of very few affiliates they have selling stochastic stuff, is you get 15% off in perpetuity. So it's not just your first month. Every month you go moving forward, you get 15% off. So, or weekly packages too. Same thing. Obviously NBA, we don't have a ton of months left. So I would say you could probably still buy a monthly package and that's a better deal. If you wanted to go weekly, it's 15% off too. So check it out. Link down below for stochastic. It does support the show directly because half the money you pay to stochastic goes to me. And that's a big part of how I do the show every day. All right. Thanks, CM. Appreciate you watching. I do appreciate all you guys watching. A lot of nice comments from you guys, and I know you guys know what hard work looks like, so I'm trying to do the work for you guys because I made my commitment here in the beginning of the season, and that's how we are with things. This week of Showdown's been really frustrating for me because I've been legit top 5 the last 2 slates heading into the 4th quarter, and that's Showdowns for you. It happens. Legitimately, 1 point can move you 100 spots in some situations, but I feel like I've had good takes, and I've had, like, my data's been working well, so I would like a nice payoff here before the season ends, but I think being up in the playoffs is the best I'm going to be able to do. Well, who knows? Finals are going to be a new opportunity, so we'll see how it goes. But I do appreciate all you guys who've ridden with me throughout the entire regular season. No matter what, I feel really good about my data. It's just NBA is a lot harder, man, than it was a few years ago. And one of my big run in the playoffs in 2021, I think it was 2021. Yeah, 2021. Like I had a month where I basically finished first in like 5 different tournaments over that period. Some of it were showdown chops, but still was finishing first a bunch. And like really felt like the field was soft at that point for playoffs. Now it's like you're just competing with lineups that all feel very similar. People land there in different ways as well, where it's not all stochastic sims. Showdowns are tough in NBA, and I would say more than ever, but you got to stick with it. And still, there are people getting, two-way splits for first place in some tournaments out there, so it can be done. NBA doesn't reward unique thought quite as much as NFL, though. I will say that for a showdown. Your top ROI lineups, so according to Stochastics, we'll see what they think here. And keep in mind, a large portion of the field today will be relying on this data to make their lineups. They have Aaron Nesmith, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Tony Bradley, Tyrese Halliburton. This was just updated about a half hour ago, so pretty hot off the presses. Top lineup, Nesmith, Brunson, Anunoby, Siakam, Bradley, Halliburton. So you're cramming in Brunson, Siakam, Anunoby, Halliburton, paying the value for Bradley. And to get there, it's Nesmith as captain. So that's the way they're trying to get you to build for the number 1 ROI lineup. Number 2 is Cat at captain. Love that. Delon Wright, less so. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Miles McBride, Tyrese Halliburton. So you're fading Bradley here, taking one of the next cheapest guys in Delon Wright. That makes certainly some amount of sense. 5-1 build with the Knicks, I would say also probably a little bit more unique. You don't see as many onslaughts in NBA, but I think an onslaught one yesterday. Let me just check that real fast. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. Hold on, loading. Shoot around. Yesterday was a 25-way chop for $9,000 in the big tournament. So not the best payout for a 100K tournament, but it was a 4-2 build for OKC. So a blowout got a 4-2. The reason it wasn't a 5-1 was Terrence Shannon had the big scoring day with him having high usage like we talked about. Yeah, I think a 5-1 build's interesting. That basically says, Knicks really rolling him over here. Halliburton maybe less likely to make it. I feel like with Siakam, that could be it. 2 entries are going to split the big tournament until the very end. It was the same thing in the 4-point play. So that makes sense. But that's, the very end is a big part, unfortunately, for showdowns. Josh Hart at number 3, Jalen Brunson, Miles McBride, Obi Toppin, Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton at number 3. So again, paid on option at captain, cramming in some stars with Brunson, Siakam, and Halliburton. That's been the case here. They've done for 2 lineups so far. Number 4, Pascal Siakam at captain, Andrew Nembhard, Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Obi Toppin. So in this one, you get the Halliburton fade. You're also fading Brunson. So that's one way I will say this might be a unique lineup because you're fading 2 of the stars up top and you're going Siakam at captain as well. No real paid on options, but you are fading Bradley too, going Obi Toppin. This is a really clever lineup. I feel like I don't often feel that way about the Sims. No disrespect to Stochastic. It's just when you look at only 5 lineups, sometimes they're just, they are what they are. The data is what it is. This is like a cleverly built one. I think there's some game theory to it as well. And with Nembhard's minutes being down last game, I do think Stochastic has him over projected, but getting him in here makes you probably a little bit less owned because people will be like, oh, Nembhard didn't play as much. So I like that build and leaving 100 in the salary on the table as well. It's not bad. Number 5, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and Tony Bradley. So you have the lesser owned captain that allows you to cram in Brunson and Towns. You are still fading Halliburton though, so that'll get you more unique. Another 5-1 build favoring the Knicks. That will also get you more unique theoretically. But it seems like Stochastic liking these Knicks winning and maybe running Indiana off the court builds. And I don't know what about the series would make you feel that way, but again, the data is the data. Look at the ROI guys here. Let's check the chat. Real early today, Suspurious News, one of my beloveds here. I'm just going whenever I can. Honestly, probably moving forward. It's going to still put him on for a 1 o'clock time frame, but basically if I have time to do it earlier, I'm going to try to get out of the way because it gives me more time to get views over the course of a day. And also, just like I'm trying to up my best ball content and my actual amount of best ball drafts I'm doing off stream too. So that's the logic there, but bear with me here. Hit the notification bell, whenever I go live, and just watch the video whenever you want. Really, it's not going to change how I view things. So your top ROI players. Number 1, Miles McBride in the flex. So he's getting in a lot. We'll see. Well, we'll see how much he's getting in, but if nothing else, when he does get in, he's going to pay you off based on Stochastics data. I got a lot of McBride in my sim, so I'm happy to see that here. But I do think they have McBride a little bit over projected minutes wise as well, much like they do Nemhart. Pascal Siakam at captain number 2, Josh Hart at captain number 3, Brunson at captain number 4, McBride at captain again, number 5. So 2 McBrides being highest ROI guys here, according to Stochastic, including a captain. For him to hit a captain, I mean, you have to have every top player put up like 40 points, I think is how that goes. Like all your pay up options have to get them in. Maybe Siakam too on top of that. They all put up 35 to 40 with none of them really having a lean. I don't think McBride captain's the kind of way I would play it. Siakam, Hart, Brunson captains, all good. Mitchell Robinson, the flex at number 6. Tony Bradley, the flex number 7. No surprises on those. Overall, your highest exposed guys, independent of position. We got Pascal Siakam in the flex, 50% for him. Fields at 35, so pretty big stand in favor of Pascal Siakam in the flex. Tyrese Halliburton, 46%. Fields at 45.9, so a pro stand in favor of Halliburton by 0.1%. But Halliburton here holding hands of the field in the flex, that's fine in Stochastic's top 150. Jalen Brunson, 43.3%, Fields at 46. So a little bit of an anti-stand on Brunson, but really pretty close to holding hands there. The biggest stand is definitely Siakam by a wide margin so far. Josh Hart, 41%, Fields at 35. He's pretty cheap for a guy who's going to play 30-plus minutes and likely close out the both halves. Mitchell Robinson, 37% ownership, Fields at 23. So Siakam and Robinson, your biggest stands here in the flex. They're both coming up a lot. McConnell, 37, Fields at 26. McConnell has been getting a lot of usage and he had to play more minutes last game when they decided to not play, Shepard and to really in particular to not play Nemhart as much. McConnell got more minutes there. Certainly if Nemhart were to play more minutes, there'd be a push-pull dynamic with McConnell. So I would keep that in mind here with him being pretty decently owned at 4,400. And Karl-Anthony Towns in the flex, 35%, Fields at 42. So a little bit of an anti-stand on Towns, but he's still in more than 1/3 of the lineups in the flex. So well, how much anti is it really? Your highest exposed captains, Jalen Brunson, 28%, Fields at 20. So they like Brunson more at captain, less in the flex. Josh Hart, 15% at captain, Fields at 8.5. So they like Towns a lot here at captain. Karl-Anthony Towns, 13%, Fields at 17. So a little bit of a fade on Towns in both the flex and at captain. Siakam, 10%, Fields at 8. So again, Stochastic loves Siakam today. Halliburton, only 9%, Fields at 14. So they are getting less of Halliburton and probably in favor of getting Siakam. Well, in favor of getting Hart, Brunson. Yeah, that's it. Because Siakam, they're barely above the field on. So basically the Halliburton ownership here is going more to Josh Hart. Neesmith, 8%, Fields at 3.4 at captain. So that's a pretty big stand in favor of him. He was in a lot of those top ROI lineups as we saw. And Mikal Bridges, 5%, Fields at 4%. So getting him a captain more than I will for sure. Most positively leveraged guys overall. Siakam in the flex, 15% more in the field. McBride in the flex, 15% more in the field. You're getting him in about 1/3 of lineups in the flex in the top 150 from Stochastic. Mitchell Robinson, 13% more in the field. McConnell, 10%. Brunson, 8%. Hart, 6% at captain. And Hart, 5% in the flex. And the Brunson number was also a captain number, 8% more in captain. Your most negative leverage guys, the ones they would like to fade in Stochastic's top 150. Tony Bradley, barely getting played in the flex here, 15%, Fields at 34. So they're trying to get other cheap guys in, which I think for a sim, it'll do that more. If you're playing an optimizer out there, use the solver. If you still use Fantasy Crunch, I don't even know if they're up and running. Roto Grinders, whatever. You're probably going to get Tony Bradley a lot, but a sim here, or at least a Stochastic sim, seems to not think Bradley's a good play with him being owned by about 1/3 of the field. Miles Turner in the flex, 13% less in the field. Only about 16% of your lineups will have him if you use Stochastic data. Nemhart, only about 16% of lineups as well. So they are, that's weird. They didn't penalize his minutes at all, but they are knocking him down the sim. Neesmith, 25% in the flex, Fields at 31. So they like Neesmith more in the field at captain, less so at the flex. Towns in the flex, about 7% less. Halliburton, 5% less. Turner, 5% less. You really know what to make out of that. I mean, the Siakam stand really being a big one here. Again, your highest exposed guys. Siakam, most leverage there. McBride in the flex. Mitchell Robinson in the flex. And I guess your Knicks captains are really the biggest stand Stochastic has. I'm going to give you guys my splash plays for the day here before we do one last run through plugs. Please do subscribe down below if you got any value to this video. It does go a long way for me here. I'm just one dude fighting off the YouTube algorithm and really just the malaise of the NBA at this point. Not a lot of people gambling on it as much these days, but I still show up here and do the work because that's the promise I made to you guys when I started this regular season. And now we are 7 months in and I'm still here doing it every day because that's what we do when we enjoy something and when we want to be good at gambling. We keep doing it every single day as best we can and as best we can afford it. Check it out on a beta 2, 20% off, link down below. Stochastic, 15% off. You want to build your own sims, 15% off, link down below for all their data, all their sims products, no matter what sport as well. Obviously, NBA will work great, but also you get there for MLB, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, whatever you're looking for. Stochastic has the data for you. And again, the Discord, $5 to join. You get my data as well if you join the Squirt Squad or the VIP tiers. And I update throughout the night as well. So things move. Whenever I update my things for my lineups, I put the Google Sheet update in as well. So pretty much like clockwork. I've got it down to a process. Splash face of the day. It's Cat, number one. Obviously, not a surprise. For Cat, he's been my guy all regular season. I'm cool dying on the hills of guys that have won me money before. But for Cat, I think he's a strong play here. Certainly, if he gets into foul trouble, you get more Mitchell Robinson. You get a little bit of a trickle down to Precious Achiuwa potentially, but probably not enough to matter. Though, honestly, Achiuwa could matter on the slate because he is also a 1K guy, I think. So that's actually interesting. Let me confirm that. Yeah, Achiuwa 1K flat. If you don't play Towns and you don't play Robinson, even if you do play Robinson, consider Achiuwa. I would consider that shot because he's a 1K guy. He basically just has to beat out Tony Bradley, who's going to be 35% owned. So again, I love Towns, but just one game theory note. You don't play Towns, probably because he got into foul trouble. He did make a lineup somehow. I think in that case, that's when Achiuwa might have a shot at making it. So if that ends up being right, you come into Discord, you tell me that was a good call. But I will play Towns a lot, though. So in lineups where I don't play Towns, I'm going to try to think creatively like that. For me, they'll have Towns at about 75, 80% of my lineups at captain and the flex combined. Besides him, I think for McBride's a stand for me right now. I feel like the minutes are a little bit aggressive, but he is a pro stand for me in particular in the flex. Nemhart and Neesmith, both pro stands for me right now in the flex. Those are really the biggest stands I have. I do like, as I mentioned before, in terms of the Knicks little Bermuda Triangle of wing minutes, you got Anunoby number 1 for me, Hart number 2, Bridges number 3. If you want to fade me, flip that chart, definitely go Bridges because I'm not going to play a lot of him no matter what. That's the slate. And obviously, you're going to play Brunson, Halliburton, Siakam. So fucking play those guys. But that's the slate, guys. Hope that adds some value. You got to gamble responsibly, guys, no matter what. Hit the like button, no matter what. It is always money time here. Oh, there we go. I meant to pull that up. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Bets. Again, hopefully you'll be back for another Knicks game. If not, we'll be back for the finals next Thursday. And at MLB, you'll be starting when the finals end. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Maybe earlier if I get really frisky. We'll also be doing 2 streams today. Stochastic DraftKings Best Ball stream at 3 p.m. And then at 4 o'clock on the Splash Play Pod channel, a Best Ball draft where I'll be sparking one up and getting baked on stream here doing it. So a 420 draft coming up today on Drafters. So check that out. Play with me on Drafters as well if you want to do some best ball later on today. Promo code SPLASH, $100 deposit match on there. If you want to play some NFL best ball, you draft NFL teams now and get a shot at $500K and not ever look at the lineup again. So that's the dream. So make it work that way. But I'll see you guys again later today, no matter what. Hopefully, join me in one of those and enjoy your days, guys. Hop into the comments, see if you have any questions, thoughts, whatever. You guys know I always reply to everything. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.